Hi everybody. Okay, so where I left off yesterday, Mulch has dug under the manor and has come up in a where's he come up to? I mean, it's a cellar, isn't it? It's one of the wine cellars. He could smell the wine in the soil where it had seeped through, where over the centuries, bottles have been broken and wine had been spilt and it had seeped through the floor into the earth below. So he's managed to smell it out, and he's arrived. He's arrived in the cellar. Okay, the steps were wooden, of course, more than a century old too, by the smell of them. Steps like that creaked as soon as you looked at them. Better than any pressure pads for giving away intruders. Mulch climbed along the edges, 1 foot in front of the other. Right in by the wall was where the wood had most support and was less likely to creak. I remember doing that as a child when I was going downstairs, and This was not as simple as it sounds. Dwarf feet are designed for spade work, not for the delicate intricacies of ballet dancing or balancing on wooden steps. Nonetheless, Mulch reached the door without incident. A couple of minor squeaks, but nothing that would be detectable by human ears or hardware. The door was locked, naturally, but it may as well not have been, for all the challenge it presented to a kleptomaniac dwarf. A kleptomaniac is the term used to describe somebody who cannot help stealing. Mulch reached into his beard, plucking out a sturdy hair. Dwarf hair is radically different from the human variety. Mulch's beard and head hair were actually a matrix of antennae that helped him to navigate and avoid danger below ground. Once removed from its paw, the hair immediately stiffened in rapid rigor mortis. Mulch twisted the end in the seconds before it became completely rigid. A perfect pick. 1 quick jiggle and the lock yielded. Only 2 tumblers. Terrible security. Typical of humans, they never expected an attack from below. The mechanism of a lock uses something called tumblers. It's hard to describe, actually, but you can go online and have a look. Terrible security, typical of humans. They never expected an attack from below. Mulch stepped onto a parquet corridor. Parquet flooring are blocks of wood. Parquet. The key stage 1 and 2 halls, I think, are parquet. The whole place smelled of money. He could make a fortune here if only he had the time. There were cameras just below the architrave. Tastefully done, nestling in the natural shadows, but vigilant nonetheless. Mulch stood for a moment, calculating the system's blind spot. 3 cameras on the corridor. 90-second sweep. No way through. You could ask for help, said a voice in his ear. Foley? Mulch pointed his wired eyeball at the nearest camera. Can you do anything about those? He whispered. The dwarf heard the sound of a keyboard being manipulated, and suddenly his right eye zoomed like a camera lens. Handy, breathed Mulch. I've got to get me one of those. Root's voice crackled through the tiny speaker. No chance, convict. Government issue. Anyway, what would you do with one in prison? Get a close-up of the other side of your cell? You're such a charmer, Julius. What's the matter? You jealous because I'm succeeding where you failed? Root's foul swearing was drowned out by Foley. So it's clever. So this camera, this tiny camera that the fairies wear on their eyeball, it means that you're seeing through that camera lens as well. So if the camera then zooms in, you can see in a zoomed in way as well. Okay, I've got it. Simple video network, not even digital. I'm going to broadcast a loop of the last 10 seconds to every camera through our dishes. That should give you a few minutes. Mulch shuffled uncomfortably. How long will that take? I'm a bit exposed, you know. It's already started, replied Foley. So get moving. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure. Elementary electronics. I've been messing with human surveillance since kindergarten. You'll just have to trust me. So if the humans, i.e. Artemis and Butler, if they look at their screens, they'll just see an empty corridor because Foley has uploaded or is broadcasting a loop of the last 10 seconds of an empty corridor just on a loop. So I'd rather trust a bunch of humans not to hunt a species to extinction than trust an LEP consultant, thought Mulch. But aloud he said, "Okay, I'm away. Over and out." He sneaked down the hall. Even his hands were sneaky, padding the air as if he could somehow make himself lighter. Whatever that centaur did must have worked, because there were no agitated mud people racing down the stairs, waving primitive gunpowder weapons. Stairs. Stairs. Mulch had a thing for stairs. They were like pre-dug shafts. He found that inevitably the best booty lay at their summit. And what a stairway! Stained oak with the intricate carvings generally associated with either the 18th century or the obscenely rich. Mulch rubbed his finger along an ornate banister. In this case, probably both. Still, no time to moon about. Stairways did not tend to remain deserted for long, especially during a siege. Who could tell how many bloodthirsty troopers waited behind each door, eager for a fairy head to add to their stuffed trophy wall? Mulch climbed carefully, taking nothing for granted. Even solid oak creaked. He stuck to the borders, avoiding the carpet inlay. The dwarf knew from conviction number 8 how easy it was to conceal a pressure pad beneath the deep shag of some antique weave. So, conviction number 8. So that time he was caught, it was due to a pressure pad. So a pressure pad is part of an alarm system in a house or a building. If you step on it, it sets off the alarms. He reached the landing with his head still attached to his shoulders. But there was another problem quite literally brewing. Dwarf digestion, due to its accelerated rate, can be quite explosive. The loosely packed soil on the Fowl estate was very well aerated, and a lot of that air had entered Mulch's tubes, along with the soil and minerals, and now the air wanted to get out. Dwarf etiquette dictated that gas be passed while still in the tunnel, but Mulch didn't have time for manners. Now he regretted not taking a moment to get rid of the gas while he was in the cellar. The problem with dwarf gas was that large deposits couldn't go up, only down. Imagine, if you will, the catastrophic effects of burping while digesting a mouthful of clay. Total system backup, not a pretty sight. Thus, dwarf anatomy ensured that all gas was passed below, actually aiding in the expulsion of unwanted clay. Of course, there's a simpler way of putting this, but that version can only be read in the adult book. Mulch wrapped his arms around his stomach. He'd better get out of the open. A blowout on a landing like this could take out the windows. He shuffled along the corridor, skipping through the first doorway he encountered. More cameras, well, quite a lot of them in fact. Mulch studied the lens's sweep. 4 were surveying the general floor space, but another 3 were fixed. "Foley, you there?" whispered the dwarf. "No," the typical sarcastic reply. "Oh, I have much better things to do than worry about the collapse of civilization as we know it." "Yes, thank you. Don't let my life being in danger interrupt your merriment." "I'll try not to," said Foley. "I have a challenge for you," said Mulch. Foley was instantly interested. "Really? Go on." Mulch pointed his gaze at the recessed cameras, half hidden in the swirling architrave. I need to know where those 3 cameras are pointing. Exactly. Foley laughed. That's not a challenge. Those old video systems emit faint ion beams, invisible to the naked eye, of course, but not with your iris cam. The hardware in Mulch's eyes flickered and sparked. Ow! Sorry, said Foley. Small charge. You could have warned me. I'll give you a big kiss later, you baby. I thought dwarves were tough. We are tough. I'll show you just how tough when I get back. Root's voice interrupted the posturing. You won't be showing anyone anything, convict, except perhaps where the toilet is in your cell. Now, what do you see? Mulch looked at the room again and through his ion-sensitive eye. Each camera was emitting a faint beam like the last evening sun rays. The rays pooled on a portrait of Artemis Fowl Sr. Not behind the picture, oh please. Mulch placed his ear against the picture glass. Nothing electrical. Not alarmed then. Just to be sure, he sniffed the frame's edge. No plastic or copper. Wood, steel, and glass. Some lead in the paint. He curled a nail behind the frame and pulled. The picture came away smoothly, hinged on the side, and behind it, a safe. It's a safe, said Foley. Yeah, I know that, you idiot. I'm trying to concentrate here. If you want to help, tell me the combination. No problem. Oh, by the way, there's another little shock coming. Maybe the big baby would like to suck his thumb for comfort. Foley, I'm going to... Ow! There. That's the X-ray on. Mulch squinted at the safe. It was incredible. He could see right into the works. Tumblers and catches stood out in shadowy relief. He blew on his hairy fingers and twisted the combination dial. In seconds, the safe lay open before him. I shall stop there. End of part 1.